Hello. There's a certain image of England, isn't there? Rolling green hills, quaint villages, cups of tea. But beneath that postcard-perfect veneer, there's another reality, one shaped by social pressures, economic hardship, and human behavior at its most raw. I've always found myself drawn to these places, the ones that don't make it into the tourist brochures. Today, we're taking a journey into that other England. From coastal resorts to industrial heartlands, these are the 15 most dangerous cities in England, ranked by their alarming crime statistics. This isn't about sensationalism, not really. It's about trying to understand the fabric of a place through the data it produces. Our list is compiled using official police data, specifically focusing on the number of violent and property crimes per 1,000 people. It's a stark numerical way of looking at things, but it reveals patterns and tells a story about the challenges people face every day. It's a story of struggle, of communities under strain, and of the friction that occurs when people are pushed to their limits. So, with that in mind, let's begin. We'll be counting down from the city with the highest crime rate, number 1 on our list, and working our way through to number 15. It's a slightly unsettling journey, perhaps, but one I think is important to take. Let's count down from the most dangerous to the least on this list. We begin at the top, or perhaps the bottom, depending on your perspective. Number 1 is Blackpool, a place of childhood memories for so many. The illuminations, the pleasure beach, the donkeys on the sand. But behind the neon lights and the cheerful screams from the roller coasters, there's a more troubling picture. Blackpool consistently records the highest crime rates in England, a statistic that feels jarringly at odds with its identity as a family holiday destination. The numbers are quite stark, really, with a violent crime rate that far surpasses any other town or city. It's a duality I find fascinating. The town's economy is heavily reliant on tourism, which brings with it a transient population and a unique set of pressures. This manifests in high levels of theft and antisocial behavior, particularly concentrated in the bustling tourist areas around the Golden Mile. You have people letting their hair down, perhaps drinking more than they should, and with that comes a certain vulnerability. Opportunistic crime thrives in this environment, from pickpocketing to more serious offenses that shatter the holiday atmosphere in an instant. But it's not just about the tourists. The high crime rate speaks to deeper, year-round issues within the resident community. Deprivation, unemployment, and substance misuse are significant challenges here, creating a cycle that's difficult to break. When you walk away from the seafront, you find neighborhoods grappling with problems that are a world away from candy floss and amusement arcades. It's a town of two halves, and the statistics tell the story of the one that is often overlooked. From the seaside to the industrial heartland of the northeast, we arrive at number 2. Middlesbrough. If Blackpool's story is one of faded tourism, Middlesbrough's is one of post-industrial struggle. The skyline, dominated by the Transporter Bridge, is a constant reminder of its proud industrial past. But the decline of heavy industry has left deep scars on the community, and the crime statistics reflect a town grappling with its new identity. Its rates of both violent and property crime are exceptionally high. The data points towards a significant issue with drug-related offenses. This is often the root cause that branches out into other forms of crime. When you have a high prevalence of addiction, you inevitably see a rise in burglaries and theft as people try to fund their habit. Middlesbrough has one of the highest robbery rates in the country, a statistic that speaks to a certain level of desperation. It's a crime that is both opportunistic and deeply personal, a direct and often violent confrontation. I find myself wondering about the people behind these numbers, the families living in areas with high burglary rates, the constant low-level anxiety that must create, the young people who get drawn into the world of drug supply chains, the police officers and social workers on the front line. It's a complex web of social and economic factors. Middlesbrough isn't just a set of statistics, it's a community trying to navigate a very difficult path, haunted by the ghost of its industrial might. Our third city is Kingston upon Hull, or Hull, as it's more commonly known. Like Middlesbrough, it's a port city with a strong working-class heritage. It had a moment in the spotlight as the UK City of Culture in 2017, a period of regeneration and optimism. Yet, despite the new art installations and refurbished public spaces, the city continues to struggle with high levels of crime. It's a reminder that deep-seated problems can't always be painted over with a cultural gloss. The statistics for Hull are particularly concerning when it comes to violent assaults and vehicle theft. There's a narrative here about what happens when the sun goes down. The city centre, particularly on a Friday or Saturday night, can transform. The vibrant atmosphere of bars and clubs can curdle into something more menacing. A significant portion of the city's violent crime is linked to this late-night economy. Alcohol-fueled arguments that escalate into something much more serious. It's a strange paradox. Cities invest so much in creating a lively nightlife, seeing it as a sign of economic health and vibrancy. But with that comes a responsibility to manage the fallout. For Hull, the high rate of vehicle theft also suggests a more organized professional element to its crime problem. It's not just random acts of violence, it's calculated and methodical. It paints a picture of a city with a dual personality, one of cultural ambition by day, and another, more dangerous one by night. At number 4, we have Bradford, a city with a rich Victorian past, built on the wealth of the wool trade. Its grand city hall and old industrial mills speak of a prosperous history. But, modern Bradford is a city marked by social and economic challenges, and in some areas, a sense of division. The crime statistics here are high, but they also tell a story that isn't uniform across the city. The problems are concentrated and often hidden behind closed doors. One of the issues that emerges from the data is gang-related conflict. These aren't always large, organized criminal enterprises in the way you might imagine, but often postcode rivalries and youth violence that can erupt with devastating consequences. It points to a lack of opportunity and a search for identity and belonging that for some young men is found within the structure of a gang. It's a narrative that plays out in many cities, but it feels particularly acute here. Alongside this, the figures for domestic violence in Bradford are troublingly high. This is a crime that often goes unseen, happening within the supposed sanctuary of the home. It cuts across all communities and postcodes. When you combine this with high burglary rates in certain neighborhoods, you get a sense of a city where the feeling of safety is precarious, both in public and in private. It's a complex picture, and one that, honestly, resists easy explanations. We now arrive at Manchester, a city that often feels like the capital of the North. It's a hub of culture, music and commerce, with a swagger and confidence that's, well, infectious. I've spent a lot of time here over the years, and I'm always struck by its energy. But with any major metropolis comes a major crime problem, and Manchester is no exception. Its sheer size and the density of its population mean that the volume of crime is inevitably high. The city's famous nightlife, particularly around areas like the Northern Quarter and the print works, is a major draw. But it's also a hotspot for violence and opportunistic theft. The mix of large crowds, alcohol, and a sense of anonymity creates the perfect conditions for pickpockets and phone snatchers. The police data shows a clear spike in these types of offences during the weekend evenings. It's the price, you might say, of being a party city, but it's not just about late-night trouble. Like any large city, Manchester has pockets of serious deprivation and organised crime. The police are constantly battling with complex gang structures and the violence that comes with them. It's a city of extremes. You can walk from a gleaming modern business district into a neighbourhood struggling with deep-seated social issues in a matter of minutes. Manchester's crime problem is as diverse and complex as the city itself. Birmingham, the country's second largest city, a sprawling multicultural metropolis that was the crucible of the Industrial Revolution. Its motto is "Forward," but the city is held back by persistent and serious crime issues. Given its size, a high volume of crime is expected, but the rates of certain types of offences, particularly violent ones, are a cause for significant concern. It's a city that feels constantly in motion, but with an undercurrent of tension. The statistics on robbery and knife crime are particularly stark. These are not abstract numbers. They represent terrifying, life-altering events for the victims. The problem seems to be most acute in some of the inner-city areas, places that have historically suffered from underinvestment and social fragmentation. Knife crime, in particular, has become a focus of intense media and police attention, a symptom of a deeper malaise affecting young people. I find myself thinking about the geography of fear in a city like Birmingham, the mental maps people create, the streets you avoid after dark, the parks you don't walk through. It's an invisible layer of the urban experience. The challenge for a city this vast is immense. Policing such a diverse and sprawling area, tackling the root causes of violence, and trying to foster a sense of community and safety across dozens of different neighborhoods is, honestly, a monumental task. Or Liverpool, a city with a personality so strong it's almost a character in itself. The music, the humour, the fierce pride in its own identity. It has undergone a remarkable transformation over the past few decades, with the regenerated Albert Dock and the glossy Liverpool One shopping centre. But, like so many cities on this list, it's a tale of two cities. Away from the tourist-friendly waterfront, many communities are still dealing with the legacy of economic decline. The crime data for Liverpool points to a significant problem with drug-related crime and burglary, particularly concentrated in low-income neighbourhoods. These are often crimes born of desperation, fueling, and funded by addiction. The port has always made the city a key entry point for illicit goods, and the battle against organised crime groups who control the drug trade is a constant, ongoing war that plays out on the city's streets. It's interesting how a city's reputation can both cling to it and be defied by it. Liverpool has worked hard to shake off the image it had in the 1980s, and in many ways it has succeeded spectacularly. But the statistics show that the underlying problems haven't simply vanished. They've just been pushed into the less visible corners of the city, away from the new hotels and museums. It's a story of regeneration, but an incomplete one. At number 8, we find Leeds. It has successfully branded itself as a retail and financial hub for the north. A clean, modern city full of Victorian arcades and shiny new office blocks. It feels prosperous. But this prosperity masks a crime rate that places it firmly on our list. The very things that make it an attractive destination, the busy shopping streets, the thriving nightlife, also make it a fertile ground for certain types of crime. The main issues highlighted by the statistics are theft and antisocial behaviour, with the city centre being the primary hotspot. On any given Saturday, the streets are packed with shoppers, creating a target-rich environment for pickpockets and shoplifters. As evening falls, the focus shifts to the bars and clubs, and with the heavy consumption of alcohol comes a rise in disorder and public order offences. It's a predictable, weekly cycle. It makes you think about the design of our cities. We create these concentrated zones of consumption and entertainment, and in doing so, we also concentrate the potential for crime. The police response is often one of containment, a heavy presence in the city centre on weekends to manage the crowds and respond to incidents. But it feels like a sticking plaster on a much larger issue about our relationship with alcohol and the social pressures of a night out. Nottingham. The name itself conjures up images of Robin Hood, Sherwood Forest, and a fight against injustice. It's a powerful local legend. But the modern reality of the city is less about folklore and more about dealing with some very contemporary and serious crime problems. For a city of its size, Nottingham has historically had a reputation for high crime rates, and while things have improved, it still ranks 9th on our list. Two issues stand out in the Nottingham data: knife crime and vehicle theft. the city has been a focus for various initiatives to tackle knife violence, particularly among young people. The reasons are complex, a mix of gang culture, poverty, and a lack of opportunity. But the result is a persistent fear that can permeate communities and a tragic loss of young lives. It's a problem that authorities are throwing a lot of resources at, but it's proving stubbornly difficult to solve. The high rate of vehicle theft, meanwhile, points to a different kind of criminal activity. This is often more organized, with gangs targeting specific makes and models of cars, sometimes stealing to order. It suggests a level of sophistication beyond simple opportunism. For the residents, it contributes to a feeling that their property isn't safe. The legend of Nottingham is about robbing from the rich to give to the poor. The reality of its modern crime problem is often the poor stealing from the poor. And so we come to London. It's almost a category unto itself. To talk about crime in London is a bit like talking about weather in Europe. It's so vast and varied as to be almost meaningless. The city is a patchwork of 32 boroughs, some of which are among the wealthiest and safest places in the UK, while others have crime rates that would put them right at the top of this list if they were considered as standalone cities. This sheer variation is what defines London's crime problem. You can travel a few stops on the tube and go from a peaceful, leafy suburb to an inner-city estate grappling with intense gang violence. The Metropolitan Police is the largest police force in the country, and it deals with everything from international terrorism and complex fraud to moped-enabled phone snatching and knife crime. The scale of the challenge is just on a different level to anywhere else. The media narrative is often dominated by gang violence and knife crime, and while these are undeniably serious and tragic issues in specific boroughs like Lambeth, Southwark or Newham, it's not the reality for the majority of Londoners. For many, the biggest concerns are more mundane: burglary, pickpocketing on the tube, or the recent rise in catalytic converter theft. London is not one city, but many, and its crime profile is a reflection of that complex, fragmented reality. Sheffield at number 11, another city built on the backbone of heavy industry, in this case steel. It's known as one of the greenest cities in the UK, with the Peak District on its doorstep. There's a friendly, down-to-earth feel to the place, yet it finds its way onto this list. The decline of the steel industry, though decades ago, still casts a long shadow, and like many northern cities, Sheffield has areas of significant deprivation. The crime statistics here point towards problems with burglary and antisocial behaviour. These might seem like lower-level issues compared to the violent crime we've discussed elsewhere, but they have a corrosive effect on communities. The feeling of being unsafe in your own home, the constant nuisance of vandalism, or intimidating behavior in public spaces, it wears people down. It creates an atmosphere of neglect and decline. These issues are not spread evenly across the city. They tend to be concentrated in specific districts, often the large council estates, built to house the steelworkers of a previous generation. Now, these areas can feel disconnected from the regenerated city centre and the more affluent western suburbs. It's a familiar story of uneven development, where the benefits of economic growth don't reach everyone, and the crime statistics reveal the cracks. We move to the Midlands, to Coventry, a city that has a powerful story of destruction and rebirth, having been devastated by bombing in World War II and then rebuilt as a symbol of peace and modernity. It's often called the Phoenix City, but even a phoenix has its struggles. And for Coventry, the particular issues that landed on our list are vehicle crime and robbery. The city's history is intertwined with the motor industry, so there's a strange irony in its modern problem with vehicle crime. This isn't just about joyriding, it includes theft from cars and the theft of the vehicles themselves, often by organised groups. For a city that prides itself on its transport innovation, it's a significant and frustrating issue for residents. It feels like a direct assault on the city's heritage and the daily lives of its people. Robbery is also a notable problem. This is a crime that brings a direct threat of violence and is deeply frightening for victims. It often clusters around transport hubs or city centre areas after dark. For Coventry, a city that has worked so hard to build a positive, forward-looking identity, these persistent crime problems are a source of real frustration. They undermine the narrative of rebirth and show that building a safe city is as important as building a new cathedral. Our 13th city is Leicester, one of the most ethnically diverse cities in the United Kingdom. It's often held up as a model of multicultural integration, a place where different communities live, for the most part, in harmony. The atmosphere on the streets feels vibrant and cohesive, so it's interesting to see it appear on this list, a reminder that social harmony doesn't necessarily eliminate crime. The specific issues that stand out in Leicester's data are shoplifting and drug-related offences. Shoplifting might seem like a minor crime, but high rates of it can be symptomatic of wider issues. It can point to organised retail crime or to desperation and poverty. For the city's many independent shopkeepers and large retailers, it's a significant drain on resources and creates a tense environment for staff and customers. The drug offences, as in many other cities, are the engine that drives a great deal of other acquisitive crime. The need to fund a habit can lead directly to theft, burglary, and shoplifting. While Leicester has avoided some of the more extreme violent crime problems seen elsewhere, these persistent, lower-level issues are a constant challenge for the police and a blight on the community. It shows that even in a successful, diverse city, the familiar pressures of modern urban life are ever present. We head back to the northeast, to Newcastle upon Tyne, a city famous for its iconic bridges, its passionate football fans, and its legendary nightlife. The Geordie spirit is one of warmth, humour, and a desire to have a good time. And it's this last part, the city's reputation as a party capital, that is directly linked to its position on this list. The data is clear. Alcohol-related violence is a significant issue. Walk through the big market or along the quayside on a Friday or Saturday night and you'll see it for yourself. The atmosphere is electric, but it's an energy that can easily spill over into aggression. The vast majority of people are just out for fun, but a potent mix of cheap alcohol and mob mentality means that fights and assaults are depressingly common. It puts a huge strain on police and ambulance services, who are essentially managing a weekly public health crisis. It's a strange cultural phenomenon. The city's economy benefits hugely from this party city reputation, attracting stag and hen do's from all over the country. But the residents and the emergency services are the ones who have to live with the consequences. It's a trade-off. And while Newcastle doesn't have the same levels of gang-related or organised crime as some other cities on our list, the sheer volume of alcohol-fueled disorder is enough to secure its place. Our final city, at number 15, is Stoke-on-Trent, a unique federation of 6 towns, known collectively as the Potteries, the historic heart of the world's ceramics industry. The iconic bottle kilns that still dot the skyline are monuments to a proud industrial past. But like so many other specialist industrial centres, the decline of that industry has hit Stoke hard, and the social consequences are reflected in its crime rate. The key challenges here are deeply rooted in economic decline and the substance abuse that often follows in its wake. High unemployment and a lack of opportunities have created a sense of hopelessness in some communities. This environment is a breeding ground for addiction issues, which in turn fuels a cycle of petty crime, theft, and burglary as people struggle to support their habits. The problems feel less like a sudden crisis and more like a chronic long-term illness. It's a quiet kind of desperation. Stoke doesn't often make national headlines for spectacular acts of violence, but the persistent, grinding nature of its problems has a profound impact. It affects people's health, their life expectancy, and their sense of pride in their city. Rebuilding an economy and a sense of purpose after the collapse of the industry that defined you for centuries is a monumental task. For Stoke, the crime statistics are just one measure of that long and difficult journey. So there we have it, a journey through 15 cities, from the struggling seaside resort of Blackpool to the post-industrial landscape of Stoke-on-Trent. It's a sobering tour, and it's easy to feel a bit bleak after looking at these statistics, but I think it's important to remember that these numbers are not the whole story. They are a snapshot, a single lens through which to view a place. They don't capture the resilience, the humour, or the strong sense of community that exists in all of these cities. These cities face unique challenges, but understanding the statistics is the first step towards safer communities. The data shows us where the pressure points are, where resources are needed most, and where policies are failing. It's not about stigmatizing these places, but about acknowledging the reality of the problems they face. It's only by looking at these issues head-on, without flinching, that we can begin to have an honest conversation about how to solve them. Ultimately, a city is just people. And behind every statistic is a human story. A victim, a perpetrator, a family member, a police officer. It's a complex tapestry of individual lives. I hope this has given you a different perspective on the map of England and the forces that shape the places we call home. We'll be exploring more complex social landscapes in our future videos. For more insights on UK cities and safety tips, don't forget to subscribe. Thanks for watching.